she lost a leg in a battle. That battle was called Khela's battle. And then Ashwini Kumaras gave her a metal leg. So the metal was, that's something which we have to take note of, because gods can give the whole leg back. A lot of blind people regaining sight and all those stories are valid in the Puranic sphere and all that. But the metal is so, conspicuously mentioned. Ayas, the word is Ayas. Every Purana you have a debate. The Upanishads are all debates mostly. They are all dialogue and debate. Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue. It's not. Even Arjuna took around 15, 16 chapters to go for full surrender. Till then he was questioning. Why that? Why this? What can I do? What if this is not possible? So inquiry, or we call it chintana. Right. So that inquiry is the basis of evolution in Hinduism, whether it is scientific or spiritual or materialistic, it can be anything. But inquiry has to be there.
Firstly, I want to know, how does this queen like Vishpala come into Rig Veda? What is her origin story?
Yes. So how I discovered the story of Vishpala is quite a story, that is quite a story. As I told you about Abhaya, which recently got relaunched by Bloomsbury. In Abhaya, I had a scene where my protagonist, Abhaya, is some 6-7-year-old girl. And there's a scene where her father is making her, trying to make her eat lunch and trying to tell her a story. And that story, I wanted it to be centered around a warrior woman.
Okay.
Like we tell inspiring stories, like we tell our kids about maybe Jhansi Lakshmi Bai or Rudrama Devi. So that would have been the practice, except that my challenge was to find a warrior woman who existed before the times of Mahabharata. So the obvious choice was Kaikeyi was a warrior, but you can't tell Kaikeyi's story to a 6-year-old, without going too deep, like for the scene, I just had 4 lines for the story. So and then Savitri, again, it's tricky to tell about Savitri to a child. Right. And so, I mean, I resorted to Google, and one of the results was a conference document from one of the Israeli medical universities. I forget the name now. But that was a conference document on prosthesis. And the first chapter was basically history of prosthesis, where the very first paragraph had mentioned prosthesis. The idea of prosthesis first came from the Rig Veda. Where so-and-so hymn talked about Queen Vishpala losing a leg and being fitted a prosthetic leg. That's what was given in that document. And that was mortifying at 2 levels to me. Firstly, I used to be very, arrogant about my own knowledge, thinking I'm brought up with these stories. I should be knowing almost everything at least some level. And now, I'm coming across something I totally don't know. And the second level of mortification was that I'm discovering it in an Israeli document instead of an Indian site. So I think it's it's a story that needs to be popularized and retold in a way. Then I discovered why it is not retold with that level of detail, because Rigveda itself does not shed a lot of detail about Vishpala. So there is a hymn, Sukta, dedicated to Ashwini Kumaras, and they helped a bunch of people, a score of people in different ways, and Vishpala was one of them who one of those people who benefited from the grace of Ashwini Kumaras. So how did she benefit? She lost a leg in a battle. That battle was called Khela's battle. And then Ashwini Kumaras gave her a metal leg. So the metal was, that's something which we have to take note of, because gods can give the whole leg back. A lot of blind people regaining sight and all those stories are valid in the Puranic sphere and all that. But the metal is so, conspicuously mentioned. Ayas, the word is Ayas. So now historians keep debating whether it is iron or copper or, no, that's not Iron Age, or those kind of debates. One discovery or one excavation, it will send the whole whole historical period back by another 500 years, 1,000 years. So I didn't want to get stuck in the historical debate as such, which is, but just think about a warrior woman in the pre-Mahabharata times, and surviving on fighting with a prosthetic leg itself is concept for us to celebrate, which is why then I set about writing the story of Vishpala. I know a scholar just, when I was trying to pull all the details together, a scholar told me, like, there's not even enough material to write a short story, forget a novel. How, so I had to basically recreate the whole world with this detail. There is Vishpala, there is Kela's battle, she knows how to fight. She lost a leg and she got back, she got a metal leg, she fought back.
Correct.
So that's all the detail given in the Rig Veda. So I wanted to reconstruct the Rigvedic India. In the Rigvedic period, there were monarchies, there were democracies, there were patrilineal structures, there were matrilineal structures. So there has to be a period where both these, the whole system would have been very, very nascent. And even the professions were very egalitarian. So no stratification. The stratification also would have been very porous, and so these were the thoughts that led to the whole world building behind Avishi.
Right. So, this is very intriguing because of 2-3 things. One of which is obviously the prosthetic leg. And when I read this, I was baffled because this is like, thousands of years back. And at that time, someone getting a prosthetic leg, it is unimaginable. And to any mind, like be it a Hindu mind or, you might be practicing some other religion as well, but to fathom that kind of information is unbelievable. So I want to know more about this prosthetic leg. And also you have mentioned in the book as well that in those times, they were like the rishis of Naimisha, they were experimenting with the concept of marriage. So marriage was also not a concept. So I want you to talk about these two things.
So that was okay. That's just a concept which I thought would make an interesting addition to the whole story in that world building. One root concept was that a lot of Hindu philosophy, let it be philosophy, spirituality, sociology, anything, it developed on a very strong atmosphere of debate. So every Purana, you have a debate. The Upanishads are all debates, mostly. They are all dialogue and debate. Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue. It's not, even Arjuna took around 15, 16 chapters to go for a full surrender. Till then he was questioning, why that, why this, what can I do? What if this is not possible? So inquiry, or, we call it Chintana. Right. So that inquiry is the basis of evolution in Hinduism, whether it is scientific or spiritual or materialistic, it can be anything, but inquiry has to be there. So that's one aspect that I wanted to bring out, which is why you may find a lot of debates happening in the book. Avishi, you will find Rishi 1 debating with Rishi 2. On the pros and on the cons, and nothing affects their personal relationship or anything like that.
It is a very open-minded debate.
Yes, it's their job to debate and find this. That's the development. That's development for each of them, right? And marriage, yes, because here again Mahabharata had given me some intriguing, very, very intriguing clues. Here, I want to quote from the place where Pandu is sad about not being able to father a child. And that's when Kunti tells him that she has a boon, but that she had a traumatic experience with it.
Yeah.
Trying to invoke Surya, getting a child, and which is why, till the last moment she withheld the information back, and now Pandu treats it as a lottery. I mean, I can't, but we have a chance that we'll get the gods to give us children, and why are you hesitating? And then Kunti puts this argument of a woman should be faithful to one partner, and if you want me to have children with the gods, then it means that I'll become unfaithful to you. And then Pandu defends the method of Niyoga.
Okay.
And says, this the world was not like this with such stringent fidelity terms. There used to be times where people were much more liberal, and women had much more choices, and we have come from that civilization, so we need not stick to what is happening today. So there are always higher aims, and we should look back to past for the inspiration. So that's how he inspires her to take the step forward. So that sent me thinking about probably it gives a very interesting mix of society that is still contemplating on wedlock, because even without wedlock, family is such a central thing. We cannot imagine the society without a family unit, the unit of family. I mean, today we have even LGBT community trying to get rights to marriage and adoption, and also so family is still central to a lot of people, right? So how would that family have originated? That would have originated with a lot of thought, debate, probably centuries of selfless rishis rethinking about the whole thing. My only regret is that the story spans for 12 years, and in 12 years I couldn't show there was no chance that I could show the whole evolution of marriage.
Correct.
But a part of it we see.
So, and that is really interesting. And then again, we come to the point where you talk a lot about the forest of Naimisha, and you have mentioned it multiple times in the book as well, that this is the place where you come for wisdom, you come for knowledge. And I was reading this one book by Sahana Singh, if I'm not wrong. So she has written Revisiting the Educational Heritage of India.
Yes.
So she talks a lot about the forest universities, and I never knew this concept before reading that book and reading your book. So can you talk about these universities, and according to you, how were they, segregated from the society? How did they function?
So in the Mahabharata period, that there we have quite the very sophisticated systems. They were set, rules were set, and people just had to follow them. There was not much of need for a lot of creativity there. So there the forest schools used to be there, so that the gurus are free to teach people from all backgrounds. And king of kingdom A will say, hey, kingdom B is my enemy, don't train his kids. Then the rishi can say, I'm going to train everybody who's eligible, so I don't depend on you, so don't come and tell me who to teach. So that way Sandipani's ashrama was independent that way. Drona was not independent. Drona was in all purposes an employee of Kurus. So at best he could teach only Kurus princes and those princes who were deemed to be friends of Kurus. So for the same reason he couldn't teach Ekalavya. Ekalavya belonged to Magadha. So this was a small kingdom that was belonging to Magadha, and Magadha was not a friend of Kurus. So he did not have the courage to teach Ekalavya. I mean, that boy learnt by himself because of Guru Bhakti. That's a different story. So the forest ashramas, like say Naimisha, the ashrama of say, Vasishtha, though he was the, royal preceptor, royal guru of Ikshvakus, he wielded quite some power. They couldn't, I don't think the Ikshvaku kings, came and told Vasishtha, you can't teach these people. And Bhargavas, they had independent ashramas. So that way the rishis, they wielded a lot of autonomy. The concept of autonomous universities, I think we had, we had it a lot before, the term university was invented, I guess.
Yeah.
So that way, and also being in a forest, the brahmacharya period, right? I know a lot of people understand brahmacharya is just abstinence.
Yeah.
But it's much more about self-sustenance. I think brahmacharya for me is atmanirbhara. So the princes, they are brought up in palaces, but here in the forest school, they become capable of everything. Like you are learning to camp, you're learning to hunt, you are learning to survive, you're learning to cook.
Right.
So everything there. Right. So that way, forest ashramas used to really prepare these warrior students to all kinds of hardships.
Right.
So that was the whole purpose, to make them self-sufficient.
Got it. So you talk about self-sufficiency, and today when we look at Indian society, I don't think so the kids today are self-sufficient, because we have become dependent on the family, on our parents. And when we look at the Western society, there it is complete opposite. It is somewhat like our ancient roots, where they are becoming self-sufficient. So
a lot of it.
Yeah, and even when we look at the whole debate of feminism today, it has like somewhere gone very wrong for women, where their rights have been not given to them, and it is as simple as that. And then we look at the ancient time, as you said yourself, that there the women had their rights, they had certain amount of freedom, certain amount we need, it was like complete freedom for them. So where do you think this all went wrong?
All went wrong. See, if we trace the origin of feminism, right, to the West, and we have to study the kind of patriarchy that used to exist in the West, and it was horrible. Like women did not have the right to have a bank account, right to inheritance. A woman's inheritance used to be given to her husband. So it's basically
and I think so this Britishers changed this in India as well. When they came, they changed this certain rule that if after the marriage, whatever was given to the women, it won't be transferred to her. In fact, it would be transferred to the family, to the patriarchal family.
A lot of regressive stuff, because basically the kind of, if I can use the term, Abrahamic patriarchy, which used to exist in, say, 200 years before in the West, there was a lot of misogyny there. And understandably, feminism is going to come out very strongly against them, like suffrage. Suffrage was a extreme measure. They had to take that extreme measure, where I know Indian women, we may never understand the pain of suffrage, because we just got our right to vote with the constitution. I know we have to credit our leaders where it is due.
Absolutely.
So here that kind of patriarchy which came from the West, the colonial patriarchy, this is a better term, I guess, safer term. Colonial patriarchy was really, really foreign to us. But then a lot of colonialism came along with the industrial revolution. So with this industrial revolution, it disrupted the core structure of India, right? So because of that, we have certain cities which are super developed and certain areas which are super backward. Certain mining, mineral rich areas which are always being exploited. And a city next door which has like millions of population. So it basically disturbed the family system. The older family system was in such a way that the whole family was an enterprise. Whether it was pursuing agriculture or some small scale manufacturing or art or something. So when you when you are getting a daughter-in-law into the family, you'll obviously look at her skill set, and select a daughter-in-law with some skill set which would add to this enterprise. So it is a kind of hiring, with no firing. So yeah, basically it's like a marriage to a woman used to be a guarantee of her career. It's not end of her career. In a way, if a woman is a singer and basically some storytelling or a stage performing family would include her, and she'll start performing along with the rest of her family.
Makes sense.
I mean, I'm trying to give a very common example. I'm not trying to give a king or royal kind of an example, but so that used to be the way of India. And now suddenly there's a factory coming, and basically you may get better salaries, but then women won't be employed, which means the men would go there and women would stay at home, and a lot of disruption happened within the family system because of industrial revolution.
Makes sense.
So that is something which caused this rift.
Right. Because
and also the Vivaha concept itself, one of the key lines of Vivaha is Dharmecha, Arthecha, Kamecha, Mokshecha, Nati Charami. That's what the man utters. Okay, I'm accepting you in all my purusharthas. You are a partner in my dharma, in my artha, in my finances, in my kama, in my desires, and in my moksha. You are a partner. Yes, so that doesn't anywhere mean, okay, I'll go out and bring food and you cook.
There's this point in the Rukmini book, in the first 50 pages, I think so, if I'm not wrong, where she's talking with her friend and she's questioning the patriarchy of Bhishma Pitama. And that is so intriguing because Bhishma Pitama, like whenever we talk about Bhagavad Gita, whenever we talk about the Mahabharata, he's like someone whom you cannot question. He's the one who set it up, at the forefront of everything. And this woman who is questioning him. So today, when we look at our whole culture, we look at the religion, somewhere we are suppressing the voices of women. And how do you think we can get back to that time where everything was free for everyone?
So firstly, I think we should get back to studying the unabridged editions. I know it's a challenging notion. It's a daunting thing because Mahabharata unabridged critical edition, that too with all the editions removed, critical edition, English translation is 6,000 pages long. 10 volumes. Though it's beautiful. I mean, if you start reading it, there's no way you're going to leave it. So it's that beautiful. So the magic of Vedavyasa is there. But at least people who are interested, they should start reading and spreading the knowledge. I'm doing it in my own small way. I just hope for many more storytellers to come and dispel the myths, because there is so much that we can learn from our past. Of course, we have to move forward. We have to progress in all the fields, technology, space, everywhere we have to progress. But not with the sense of not after being uprooted from our past. One, certainly not hating our past for things that did not exist. So there is a lot of misinformation that is being spread about the whole, as you said, the patriarchy or misogyny, which never existed. Which is a consequence of some disruption that happened, and we have to work towards removing it. There's no denying that.
But then there's this issue, like whenever I study like any part of our Indian history. So firstly, about Hinduism, it never was, a certain religion. It started as a way of life, which is why we call it Sanatan Dharma.
And it's a civilization, and there are 6 religions within Hinduism.
Exactly. And then how do you then, get to the root of everything, and how do you get to know about this vast religion?
I would say, again, I am not a religious expert also, but I would say try and reconnect with the traditional schools. Whether it's a Shankaracharya Matha or a Vaishnava Matha or, Sri Vidya or wherever your family is connected to, or if it is a calling from your heart, try and connect to a traditional guru who has. So there, our traditional guru parampara always traces back till Lord Shiva. So whenever the Guru Shloka comes as, Sadashiva Samarambham, Vyasa Shankara Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Paramparam. So as Dakshinamurti, Shiva is the Guru who taught a lot of rishis. They taught, and that's how you have your Guru to that parampara. Right. So somewhere I think there is a spiritual power pervading through that line, as well as knowledge. And that is something that is a strong foundation, which will, we'll keep moving with the times and with the, situations. The Desha Kala Paristhiti will always have their influence, and we have to innovate and evolve out of it. But these are the foundations that will hold us close to our roots. Yeah. And we won't go too far. We won't when a disruption happens and we go too far from the roots, we can never find our way back. There is always a danger of not finding a way back. Right. So here we won't drift too far, but we'll only assimilate whatever comes as new. We'll assimilate and leave out whatever is not. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, coming towards the end of this podcast, I want to ask you, so Amish Tripathi, he has praised your books a lot. And he talks about Shiva. And in every book, we can see some element of Shiva there. And you are writing about then Lord Krishna. Every book has that some element of Lord Krishna. What are your future plans now? Are there going to be more books about the about Lord Krishna in a way, or about the women that he had in his life?
I would say I do have a couple of stories around Mahabharata, but maybe on male protagonists.
Oh wow!
That will be a good change for me from a creative this place. It would be a great change. And also there, as you said, these are unsung heroes. There are unsung heroes also in the Mahabharata. But currently I'm working on a couple of non-fiction works based on the Mahabharata itself. There is a lot of knowledge, independent of the story, which I think, we should revise and go back to. In fact, I think we should have, centers of excellence focusing on the knowledge of Mahabharata. Not on the story, but the knowledge of Mahabharata. There's a lot about statecraft, about policy, leadership. Right. There's so much to explore and assimilate that into our mainstream studies. Yeah. Because, when you have this root holding you straight, even when a tragedy strikes, we may be disturbed, but we'll not give up. So that's my belief that now the pandemic struck. I think the old beliefs had a lot to hold us together, during this first two waves, right? And the immunity, call it the immunity, and the way community came together, trying to help out each other and all. And that's the unique, the beautifully unique face of India. Whenever there is a when things are all right, we keep fighting. But when a calamity strikes, we are united. That's one unique feature which I, which I hope will stay.
Right. So, ma'am, thank you so much for doing this podcast. This has been such a great and, insightful conversation. And I would request people to go buy ma'am's books and read those books, because firstly, leave everything aside, leave these things, ki mythology and everything. Just go read these books, because the story is so, beautifully written. I completed Rukmini, as I said, in 5 hours. It took me just 5 hours to read the book. And Avishi took me around one and a half day, something like that. So, and I have my copies as well here. I have, in fact, made some annotations as well in the book. And these stories need to be retold. These stories need to be conveyed to our future generations as well, because these are where the real lessons lie. So thank you so much, ma'am, for doing this episode.